Hi, it's Dwyer. It is June 26, 2022. GamblersAdvisory.com, a free site. BettingAngle.us, a free site. Remember, the opinion you should follow should be your own. Just consider this video to be a second opinion from a complete stranger online. Now, in my favorites folder this morning is a special fight. It's actually a moment. Right, if you look for certain things in this fight film, you're thoroughly going to enjoy the performance. It is Bam Rodriguez beating the fighter I bet on, Rungvisai, who, of course, was a champion in the past, who has a huge punch. Going into the fight, had vastly more experience. He had more knockouts than Bam Rodriguez had fights. Right? And this film answers the question on who exactly is Bam Rodriguez. Now, let me just pivot here and just say that with young fighters, you always have to ask yourself, what is he trying to do? Right? Is he trying to knock out the other opponent? Is he trying to land a left hook or a right hand? Is he trying to fight inside? Is he trying to fight from distance? Right? You're trying to figure out, is this fighter a specialist or is this fighter someone who has a real diversified game? Here, the answer is simply shocking, folks. I'll just say this. I didn't quite understand before this fight. It's obvious to me now. It wasn't to me at the beginning of the fight. I didn't quite understand who Bam Rodriguez is. Rodriguez falls into that, we'll call it Willie Mays, LeBron James, Michael Jordan, Tyson Fury category. Right? This is the guy who wants to master the sport, is not a specialist. This is the guy who wants to learn as much about the sport as possible. Right? This is the guy who answers the question of how a 6'9" guy like Magic Johnson makes a decision that he's going to learn point guard skills. Right? You know, why some pitchers in the major leagues with 100-mile-an-hour fastballs actually have great off-speed pitches, can throw curves, can throw sliders, don't have to touch their fastball to be an all-star. Now, I was expecting Bam Rodriguez fighting in front of his home crowd. This fight was in his backyard. To come out against an old man, and understand, if you're Bam Rodriguez's age, everyone over 30 is old. Right? I thought Bam Rodriguez was going to come out and try to make a statement. Thought he was going to be in the pocket. I thought he was going to try to blow out Rungvisai. I took Rungvisai simply because I know Rungvisai has been in big fights, can handle big moments, and more importantly, has a big punch. Right? Is on the road, isn't dealing with local media who knows him, doesn't have to try to get tickets for people or anything like that. Isn't burdened with, and it is a burden, an unbeaten record, where the guy is expected to be Superman in every episode. Right? So I thought once they made the line, and the line for Rungvisai was huge, I thought, wow, this is an opportunity. Bam Rodriguez going into this fight only had 15 fights. Now here's where reality enters the room. The fight starts, and Bam Rodriguez, in front of his home audience. This is harder than it seems. In front of his home audience, decides he's going to concede the pocket. Right? There's no machismo here. Bam Rodriguez has a secret. And the secret is that he has vastly superior foot speed. Vastly superior to Rungvisai. Right? So Bam, of course, is moving around. A lot of lateral movement. He's on his back foot. This is a guy with a decent number of KOs. He's on his back foot. He lets Rungvisai be in the pocket and be aggressive. Right? Bam has another secret. This is kind of like watching a Terrence Crawford fight. There's an onion. You're learning the secrets as you watch the events. Bam is fighting out of a right-handed stance. But of course, Bam is actually ambidextrous. I would argue Bam's not even a right-hander. Based on what happens in this fight, I believe Bam is actually a natural left-hander. This is the young guy. Again, I mentioned LeBron James. This is the young guy who is not satisfied having success and having a punch. That's not enough. This is the guy who needs to master the sport. Right? Let me tell you, I once saw an interview of Willie Mays. This is during the Jose Canseco 40-40 era, right? Where Canseco, Bonds, A-Rod got to 40-40, and we were all amazed. And of course, they interview Willie Mays. These guys have egos. And Willie Mays, who at that time was in the top 5 in Major League Baseball history in terms of the number of home runs. Mays pointed out that he had won stolen base championships in the past. He had stolen base titles. And Mays pointed out that if he knew that 40-40 was such a big deal, he would have done it back then. Right? Mays, premier home run hitter, one of the gold standards defensively in center field in baseball history. Right? Believe that he was an elite base stealer. Right? The home runs, not enough for Mays. The fact that he's considered a 5-tool player, great arm too, not enough for Mays. Mays felt that he could have done 40-40. It just wasn't a thing in the 50s. Well, Bam Rodriguez here, thinking about the great comedian. Bam Rodriguez is not a comedian. He's charismatic. Bam Rodriguez has a profound foot speed advantage. This is as he's shifting between righty and lefty. More importantly, even though Bam has a punch, he's leaving nothing to chance. He's actually showing you defense. The movement isn't all the defense. He actually has his hands up in a high guard. Right? Think about it. So, he, of course, then starts showing you that he not only has a straight right from a right-footed stance, an orthodox stance, but that he also has a straight left from a southpaw stance. So then Sergio Mora starts to point out that Bam, who is winning every round on points, Rungvisai looks as slow as Sonny Liston did against Ali. Mora points out that Bam is pot-shotting and moving. Right? Looks like Bam can just win the match on points. Right? Chris Mannix points out that Bam's going to have to keep moving for 12 rounds. Well, here's where Bam drops his last surprise. Right? Because I was watching and I thought, oh, okay, this guy's the boxer in this. Not so fast. This guy who considers Terence Crawford one of boxing's premier closers, right? Crawford is a knockout artist. People need to realize that. Well, Rodriguez idolizes Terence Crawford. Of course, you know what happens next. Rodriguez then decides he's going to start loading up on hooks. He hurts Rungvisai in the 7th round. By this point, Rungvisai cannot figure out who he's fighting. Right? He was fighting a right-handed fighter. Suddenly, you notice by round 5, oh, here's Rodriguez, primarily a left-handed fighter. Right? Rodriguez has the full tool chest. Right? Straight rights from this stance, straight lefts from this stance. Now here he is hooking Rungvisai in the 7th round. He hits Rungvisai hard. Rungvisai, to me, looks like he almost goes down. Well, of course, in the next round, Rungvisai is completely overwhelmed because Rodriguez now is in the pocket. He's not pot-shotting. He closes the show here with a vicious combination where he's showing you hand speed. Add it all up, and Bam Rodriguez, who I bet against in this fight, is one of the better prospects in the entire sport. Right? Understand, this guy is a monster now. He's going to be Godzilla tomorrow. Right? This is the guy who clearly has been watching the very best in boxing. They tell you during the telecast that among his favorites are Crawford and Lomachenko. This is a guy who hurts you early in what looks like an exchange, and then mid-exchange moves to a different spot to change the angles while you're hurt, so he can finish the exchange someplace other than right in front of you. I don't care what the guy's birth certificate says. This guy today, I guess he has 16 fights now, is a cagey vet. More importantly, he's just like Terence Crawford. I'm not saying he beats Crawford. I believe experience has its advantages, right? And they're different weight classes. But he's just like Terence Crawford, right? You need to understand that the water is deep. That the snapshot the guy is showing you in the 1st round isn't close to all the skills that the guy has. You also need to realize that whatever the guy says pre-fight, he's a strategist. His ego is not going to get in the way of him conceding the pocket against a guy who can't match his foot speed. Even when Rodriguez is fighting before his hometown fans. Right? So count me among the poorer, right? I lost on this fight, but also count me among the impressed. Right? I did not know that Bam Rodriguez was this good. Right? I was expecting a young guy who did 2 or 3 things well. Right? Getting by on youth, believing he was the bigger puncher in every fight, not paying attention to the details. What I got was a strategist who, quite frankly, is like the basketball player who's right-handed who decides, no, I need to learn a left hand. I need to learn to dribble with the left hand. I need to learn to take layups where I dribble in with my left hand and then I finish with my left hand. Right? This is the advanced technician who is trying to master the sport. Right? Understand, as with Crawford, as with his spiritual brother, in my opinion, Tyson Fury, it's never going to be enough for Bam Rodriguez, right? He's always going to be working on new things. Magic Johnson in addition to being a spectacular NBA Finals winning point guard, somehow developed into a three-point shooter, when at the time it was unheard of for guys 6'9" to be taking threes. You certainly didn't expect it from Magic Johnson. That's who Bam Rodriguez is, right? Extremely impressive. It's rare to see a young guy daring to do anything other than what he does best, right? Understand the risk involved. You know, if you're a natural lefty and you're in against a vet who has come to your country to take your title, and that vet has more knockouts than you have fights, when you're actually fighting in your non-dominant stance, if you're a left-hander and you're fighting against a knockout puncher in a right-handed stance, you're taking a huge risk. You're not presenting the best you. Unless you're guys like this, who have worked hard to diversify his skills, right? This is a master technician. He wants to be Loma. He hits harder than Loma for his weight class, right? This is the guy with gifts where the big fastball is not enough. He needs to learn how to pitch. He needs to learn how to get you out with change-ups and curveballs, right? I think this guy's a star. This is that occasion in the sport where I'm watching a guy I've bet against, and I'm thinking to myself, man, this guy is a lot better than I thought he was. I'm thinking, wow, I looked at films of this guy, and he's almost unrecognizable in this fight. Right? A star is born. The highlights are in my favorites folder here on YouTube. Let me know what you think in the comment section of this video. Thanks for stopping by.